Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you once again for having me here. I think it's a very good opportunity. This is first time I'm talking with Uzbekistan University, though I think we are living very nearby. From my city, it's not very far. I look forward visiting your beautiful
Yeah.
country. Anyway, the topic today is that does financial development and institutional quality impede or stimulate the shadow economy? It's recently published with our co-authors. One of my co-authors is here, I think Walker Amir from China. I will I will go a little bit beyond the paper to make it more interesting, to give more kind of a technical steps about the shadow economy. I hope I will have enough time to do that. Anyway, the shadow economy is a very well-known informal or underground economy, or sometimes black economy. So it has so many terminology. Mainly in general sense, when the GDP or economic activities is undocumented or unofficial, there is kind of a shadow economy or the tax avoidance or tax evasions in general. So in some part of shadow economy, it also includes kind of a illicit financing, but not all types of crimes. But the some part of the illicit financing also is included in shadow economy, like smuggling, drug trafficking, or the fake production. The characteristics of a shadow economy, mainly it is tax evasion, avoiding income or corporate or any kind of a tax. If economic agent try to avoid it, then regulatory evasion, non-compliance with labor law, like minimum wage or safety standard. In some countries, there can be a minimum wage law, let's say. So far, I know in Australia, my residence in Melbourne, so minimum wage is probably $25 per hour. So in sometimes in some shops, if it is undocumented labor, so they can hide it and they can give in cash. So that is also part of the shadow economy. Then cash-based transactions conduct to minimize traceability. So if you can sell something and so no one can detect in cash, so that can be also part of the shadow economy. Yeah, in the case of VAT, so if a country has a value-added tax on selling any items, goods, and services, then if it is sometimes cash-based transactions, that also can be part of the shadow economy. And unregistered business, sometimes operating outside the formal regulatory framework. Then what are the main drivers for shadow economy? In some countries, it is very high, some countries, it is low. So from the literature in general, there are few factors or driving factors that can foster shadow economy. Mainly the weak institution comes first. Like if the government is not very sincere in controlling corruption, uh, then rule of law, like giving bribes and some other things. So if an institution in somewhat enabling shadow economy, so in that country will experience high amount of shadow economy, size of the shadow economy, like corruption, then large regulatory burden also, like a bureaucracy quality, like if you want to start a business, how easy or how difficult it is. So sometimes people like to make a speed money or a kind of a bribe to make it happen faster. So that's also part of the shadow economy. Then heavy tax rate. So I think in macroeconomics we study the tax rate and tax revenue. So it is not a linear relation, some kind of a quadratic relation with the heavy tax. So when tax is increasing, so government revenue to some extent increasing, then after a certain time, it will demotivate At the same time, the economic agent tried to evade tax because of the tax burden. Now, previous literature, like 10 years before, they also overlooked few things like cryptocurrency or blockchain technology. I think I will talk these things a little bit more, though we did not talk in the paper, but I think it's very contemporary to bring cryptocurrency in the picture. You can see the two scenario, some countries. The first panel shows that the high level of high size of shadow economy over GDP. So Bolivia, number one, it's approximately more than 50% of their GDP, I mean, size of the shadow economy over GDP. Then Georgia, like CIS country, probably nearby of Uzbekistan. Sadly, I didn't find the statistics for Uzbekistan. Then Zimbabwe, Panama, Nigeria, you can see your neighbor country, Azerbaijan, Ukraine, around 64% shadow economy. Salvador, Belarus, Armenia, Russian Federation, Moldova, Tajikistan, Kazakhstan, Venezuela. These are the where size of shadow economy more than 30% of GDP. And here the list of another countries, a pretty developed country. You'll see that um, they are in between from 10% to 15% of the shadow economy. Surprisingly, among this country, the China size of shadow economy is very less. It's around 12%. I was very surprised to see the statistics. Then probably this is the reason I was visiting China a few months ago, and I saw China is almost cashless. So meaning that government can detect every single transaction very well because of the technological solution. That is the probably main reason China has very less size of shadow economy. So how we can measure shadow economy? So there are mainly the three approaches, well-known approach that can measure shadow economy. The first is the model-based approach. It's called multiple indicator and multiple cause. This is very popular one when you do not have any other choices. So I will talk about this one a little bit detail to measure the shadow economy. The second one is direct approach, like conducting any kind of a survey questionnaire to understand unregistered business and method face on reporting due to sensitive nature. Then audit or inspection. So audit and inspection is the find kind of a discrepancy in official record. That also can be part of the shadow economy, though this process will be very costly and sensitive for direct questionnaire. You need investigation, thorough investigation. Then there are some other indirect approach like currency demand method, like observing an unusual high use of cash relative to GDP, but your GDP is not equivalent. Probably you know the one of the formula of calculating GDP from monetary based is that high powered money, high powered money, the total physical money and commercial bank volt in central bank, there's the high powered money. If you multiply with the velocity, so then that should be GDP. But if you see the official GDP and velocity times high powered money is not equivalent, then this difference is also a kind of a shadow economy. Then labor market indicator, like comparing official employment statistics and independent survey to estimate unregistered work. Then electricity consumption method. This is also a very interesting one, like comparing electricity uses with GDP to detect unreported production. This is very much production based. Let's say given amount of, you can calculate the consumption of total electricity that can give you the amount of production. But if your production is less or higher, so this discrepancy also can tell the size of the shadow economy. Then tax gap analysis, measuring discrepancy between actual and expected tax revenue. So if government somehow can anticipate or measure that how much tax supposed to get and getting if it is less, then obviously this is because of the shadow economy. So MIC, this is how it is calculated, since this is very popular. Even our data, the size of shadow economy that we use, those it is secondary sources, but they use these methods to calculate shadow economy. So here first there are two equations. The first part of the equation is a latent, meaning through the structural equation, the cause and latent variable. So cause and here the latent variable that we cannot measure. For example, shadow economy, size of the shadow economy. Equivalent is the cost factors. So what are the cost factors? So as we discussed, the high tax rate, heavy regulatory burden, corruption, lack of trust in institutions. So from all these variables, if we have data, then we'll get a parameter by estimating a structural equation. So with these parameters and observed factor, if we multiply, and eventually we can get the latent variable or the size of the shadow economy. Then for the verification, the second step is the measurement equation. So latent variable to indicators. So indicator of those things we can observe. Indicator, for example, currency demand relative to GDP, then discrepancy official and unofficial labor market, electricity, and so on. So indicator variables equals to the gamma, then shadow economy, that latent variable we calculated from the earlier equation. So eventually the differences between indicator and the shadow economy will be the error term. So this is the basic measurements of shadow economy. It's commonly used. Now, the relationship between illicit finance and shadow economy, though we did not talk much about in our paper, but sometimes I see there is some misconceptions whether shadow economy and illicit financing is the same thing or not. But so definition of illicit finance or the financial crimes, it refers that illegal financial flow derived from activities such as money laundering, tax evasion, terrorist financing, proceeds of corruption, fraud, or trafficking like drugs, arms, human, like in some country, like organized prostitution, maybe not allowed, but there is also that's a part of the illicit financing. Then manipulation of market or illegal financial scheme. So this activity often rely on underground channel to avoid detection and evade the legal financial system. So this is the illicit financing or financial crime. And there is, of course, there is an overlap with shadow economy. So shadow economy includes legal activities conducted outside the formal regulatory framework to avoid taxes or compliance cost. So maybe unregistered business. It's not necessarily a big crime like drugs and trafficking, but just to avoid it, or under table payment like this. So illicit finance and however typically involve illegal activities is more directly associated with the criminal enterprises. So therefore, while all shadow economy activities involve illicit financing, a subset of shadow economy does overlap with illicit financing or unethical methods are employed. So example of illicit finance in shadow economy, like a tax haven, companies or individual hiding taxable income in offshore account, or money laundering, converting proceeds from illegal activities into seemingly legitimate funds through informal network. Then it also includes bribery, corruption, and illicit trade like smuggling, fake goods, or illegal mining. So in the process, how there are three stages of money laundering. First is the placement. When you someone do a lot of crimes or earn money from illegal sources, so they try to deposit in bank in some cases a smaller amounts to avoid any kind of a detection, or they can put this money in overseas accounts. So the first step, once they have money, they try to, if they bring the formal economy through banking sectors, or directly they can purchase the luxury real estate or luxury good with cash directly. Then second stage, the layering, the process of concealing the origin of the fund through complex layer of financial transaction, like transferring money through multiple accounts and jurisdictions. They often can use offshore account or shell accounts, or this business actually does not exist, only some kind of a paper. They're investing in legitimate business or securities, converting money into other assets such as cryptocurrency, and creating fake invoice or over invoicing to move fund. Then eventually the last stage, they integrate this money in the legitimate economy, which is kind of a integration. So this is the three stage of money laundering. In our paper, this published paper, what we try to see mainly that whether uh, financial development somewhat can influence shadow economy. The underlying assumption is that what is financial development is all about. So financial development is that it should increase the allocative efficiency of resources by reducing transactional cost. Then financial development also should reduce non-performing loan and other sort of financial crime. It should also improve symmetric information and try to reduce moral hazard problem or adverse selection. So that is the role of financial development. But so theoretically, it should reduce shadow economy. But at the same time, if financial institutions giving a lot of money to private sector, so the private sectors will get more chances to evade taxes or to increase the shadow economy. So the literature or the theory is both way, meaning the bottom line is that financial development and shadow economy not necessarily a straightforward relation. It either can stimulate or it can curb. So that's why it needs an empirical investigation to understand this relationship. Then in institutional quality, I think this is more or less a straightforward relation. In some cases, it may not be like bureaucracy quality. So if you need to go through too many government process to do any business activities, then people might try to find a easy solution by giving some kind of a bribes. So that's why it also can hinder or promote shadow economy at the same time. This is objective, as I said already. And so in order to analyze our models, we apply CSARDL methods. So before CSARDL, we follow a number of procedures that why CSARDL should be. So first of all, we check our variable of interest like shadow economy, financial development, institutional quality, GDP per capita, whether they are stationary, panel stationary or not. The first step was to check their cross-sectional dependency. Since we are living in a very connected world, so through observed factor like trade or financial integration and other things, all economies are interconnected. So meaning that any macroeconomic variables is no longer a country specific anymore, because a considerable amount of that particular macroeconomic variable can be explained by foreign variable, at the same time global variable. So that's why we check our variable whether there is any considerable amount of cross-sectional dependency or spatial dependency or not, and when you found it. Then second stage, we apply second generation panel unit truth test because for long time series panel data, unit root can be a problem. To avoid any kind of spurious regression, so we apply second generation panel unit root. I did not put it here, and we found both the presence of cross-sectional dependency and non-stationarity in our variable. And third stage, normally we do whether we should impose any homogeneity restriction, that how y will respond to x vector. But here we use the common sense that in short run maybe it can respond heterogeneously, but in long run they should respond homogeneously. From the common sense, that's why we apply CSA-RDL. This method is kind of a very superior or robust in the presence of endogeneity problems, since it is coming from the var background or error correction framework. Then also serial correlation problem it can handle. So we consider 69 developing country and 28 developed country. Since they are significantly differ in terms of the size of shadow economy, we did not put all the country in one basket, rather split to see how it is responding. So our dependent variable was shadow economy, financial development, institutional quality, and GDP per capita, and we took some kind of an interaction like financial development along with institutional quality, then GDP with institutional quality, meaning how inclusive GDP it is, and financial development with GDP, meaning the role of financial sectors in GDP with so the interaction shadow economy. Then this is the preliminary analysis. So for developing country, size of shadow economy differs significantly. You can see minimum is 9.2 to it can be even 70%, which is big enough. At the same time, financial development also, the share of GDP, it can be no less than 1% to 160% of GDP. Then institutional quality can be from negative to positive and other. So we see a considerable variations. This is the common correlation magnitude in developed, first is developing country and the below one developed country. So it shows that their cross-sectional dependency is very high, more than 60% in the case of shadow economy, financial development 45%, and also in institutional quality. In some cases, some variables can be stationary at level, and sometimes it can be stationary after first difference. So mixed order of integration, and mixed order of integration is perfectly all right for CS-ARDL method. We did some preliminary analysis before going to regression to understand what is the reality of not imposing any kind of a restriction on data. So we see that shadow economy and quality of governance or institutional quality, to some extent, it is a negative relation. So higher institutional quality can reduce size of shadow economy for developing country. And the second of panel is in financial development. So financial development relation is really not very straightforward. So initially it is going down when financial development is improving. Then after 90% you will see it's a positive, then again going down. It is for developing country. In the case of developed country, is very different. The quality of governance, yes, initially it is upward, then is downward, which is good to reduce shadow economy. But in the case of financial development, you see after 200%, it's kind of a positive, though their observation is not very strong. But since it is a small sample, like only 28 countries, So it influenced the analysis a lot. This is the main findings for developing country. So error correction is negative and significant, which is meaning any exogenous shocks, the model itself converging to the equilibrium. So regarding FD financial development, it is overwhelmingly negative, consistently negative and significant. When within the bracket it is T value, which is significant. In the case of institutional quality, actually we see it is negative and significant. But in third model, it is not because of taking interaction. So when we took two interaction with financial development and growth, so this negative is highlighted in somewhere else, but it can be explained in somehow. So the main message here is that financial development significantly reduce shadow economy in the long run. Institutional quality improves um, governance, overall governance, that eventually shrinking the shadow economy. Per capita positively interact with institutional quality to minimize informal activities. As for the developed country, well, error correction is negative and significant, but financial development we found consistently positive. So also it's highlighted in the graphs to some extent. Here, why it is so, we try to explain in detail in developed country why financial development actually positively associated with um, shadow economy. So in most of the developed country, financial development is really extremely high. And the role of financial institution in GDP. So which is more about a kind of a bubble economy. For example, if you look at USA or other developed country, you will see that how financial market is strong. So even if you are buying some kind of a security, for the security you also have some premium like CDS, and there are so many things are happening in the financial sectors. So that's why if you look at in global financial crisis that coming from real estate sectors and how vigorous it was, the magnitude. And if you look at in Russian economy, where the financial sectors does not play that much role, but when Russian economy was experiencing more than 16,000 of sanction, including sanction on central bank, still financial sector is surviving because of based on too much real economy, real production. So that is my main essence here. And institutional quality, we found some kind of a mixed effect where the institutional quality is already developed. So for developed country, shadow economy analysis is really complex. Sometimes it's opposing with the theories. So we need to look at very much into empirically assess why it is happening from country to country. So there are many unobserved factors that our model could not capture it. So that is one of the limitation we can say in the study. So discussion, as I said already, for developing and developed country, it is very much differ, but what is bottom line is that institutional quality is really paramount for carving shadow economy. As for financial development, well, there is a mixed effect for developing and developing country. So this is what we conclude. Also, what I discussed already. What can be the future study or limitations? So, for example, future study should explore cryptocurrency, shadow economy, and illicit financing that we basically did not cover in this study. Um, yeah, so that's all. If you have any question, I will be happy to answer.
Great. Thank you very much, Dr. Sohag. It was a very interesting presentation, and I believe all the audience loved it. And thank you very much for providing an extensive background of the shadow economy, and we really liked. I personally really liked the presentation. And we can move on to the Q&A session. I believe some of our audience might have questions regarding the presentation or regarding academic research in general. So if there is anyone who would like to ask a question, please you may raise hand and you could go for it, please. In the meantime, I'd like to ask a question. For this particular research, you've used the CSARDL model. I wanted to know, how do you decide what methodology to use, what estimation method to use when you do a research?
Well, basically, I also teach econometrics in this university. So I also teach my students that we cannot apply any method that we know. We should not be biased with method. We rather should give the freedom to data. So that's why we try to understand the characteristics of data. So in the case of long panel time series data, I follow these steps. The first, I check whether is there any country over country or cross country dependency. Let's say GDP. In Russian GDP growth can influence Uzbekistan GDP, I believe, because of the considerable amount of trade, then labor migration, and so on. So in previous methods, previous time series, panel time series, like fixed effect or random effect model, so they consider the covariance of epsilon I and epsilon J. Let's say epsilon for Russia and epsilon for Uzbekistan. It will be uncorrelated. They should not be correlated. That was the assumption. But in modern economy, it violates the assumption. That's why we check whether there is a cross-sectional dependency, meaning Russian GDP and Uzbekistan GDP has a co-movement. They are moving simultaneously in one direction. Then if there is cross-sectional dependency, we no longer can apply first generation panel unit root. So we should apply second generation. So second generation capture cross-sectional dependency, then autoregressive part. Then based on these two understanding, if there is a unit root and cross-sectional dependency, we no longer can apply static model, and that model does not consider cross-sectional dependency. In third stage, we see that the dependent variable will respond homogeneously with all countries we consider with regressor. Let's say shadow economy will respond homogeneously to financial development if it is magnitude is 0.5 in Russia, whether it will be same for Uzbekistan or not. And so this is the questions we also try to discover. Then based on all the characteristics we have, in the picture in our analysis, we decide which method can overtake or overcome this kind of a problem. This is how we select the method based on the characteristics of data.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the response. We have one question.
Okay. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I would like to know the source for shadow economy data. And it was a nice presentation. I would like to, if the paper is freely available, or is it like not freely available, the paper which you have published. And congratulations for this, for the very nice presentation and for this best paper.
Thank you. First of all, this data is available. It's open source. You can find it from Gothenburg University. They compile data on governance. So, but there is not written the shadow economy variable. They wrote the variable name is MIC, meaning multiple indicator, multiple causes, or undocumented economy. Because they have a different, I think, thousands of indicators. Sometimes people face a problem to find this variable because its name is different. MIC. So you will go to Gothenburg University website. You will find they have a School of Governance. They compile the data. So we'll get the data for shadow economy with the variable name MIC. And the paper also, I think it is publicly available. Nature, I think in general it is open access.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
I think there is one more question.
Is there any more questions?
May I ask kindly?
Yes, please.
Thank you very much for the great presentation, Dr. Kazi. I would like to ask, like you said, like you find in China, they have a less shadow economy. Like at the same time, you experience like the China is almost cashless society. So do you think like blockchain technology can have a role on shadow economy? However, I have another question to ask. Like you find like in high income countries, like financial development has like positive impact on shadow economy, right? So at the same time, in high income countries, they have good governance is like very robust. So what actually good governance is doing, since shadow economy is like not that much good, like increasing with financial development. So what is your comment about all this? Thank you.
Okay, regarding the first question, whether blockchain technology and shadow economy, for precisely cryptocurrency, basically cryptocurrency can give you a good avenue to hide many kind of a illegal income, since it is cross-boundary payment is so easy, like in bitcoins or other things. So easily you can transfer money, and it has a less regulatory framework by central bank. So it depends on the country to country central bank whether they are controlling cryptocurrency, they have any legal framework or not. This is one thing, meaning it definitely is an avenue to hide some income. But blockchain technology lovers also same time they say blockchain technology that give a public ledger, meaning you can detect every single transactions. So it is easy to detectable. That's why I'm sure you know that Trump administration recently announced that government sector accounting, public accounting in USA, they want to make it blockchain technology so that they can detect all kind of transactions in every state. But I'm not very good expert in computer or technology. But what I heard that quantum computing can destroy somewhat this blockchain technology. So that can be a technological threat in future. So it is more about if most of the country is going to CBDC concept like central bank digital currency or blockchain-based accounting system that can trace every single transaction. That probably in short run there will be solution, but in terms of security, cyber security, that can be a threat because common sense is every time there is a virus, there is an antivirus. Then new virus, ransom virus will come. Then again, antivirus try to detect. So we cannot be 100% sure about the cyber security. So if something happening in the whole systems, then that will be a catastrophe. Like you cannot trace anything. And regarding your second question, well, I feel that for developed country, maybe there is a small amount of shadow economy which is not controllable, meaning that's a threshold amount or it's happening by nature that institution neither financial development can curb it. Like not all the countries have gone fully cashless. Still, there is some cash is using. So not 100% country has a CBDC or even in China, still it's possible to pay with Chinese yuan. Understand? So technology fully cannot detect all kind of illicit or shadow economy transactions. Regarding institutional quality, also same. Let's say if you go to a shop, a small shop, and if you want to buy things with cash, and they can easily hide their VAT and then can give you some kind of a discount. So it's a win-win situation both for you and for that shop. So that's why when individual has a higher incentive to evade something, so from Adam Smith theories that invisible hand will always try to maximize our benefits unless until it can be implies with the legal framework. Sorry, moral framework. Sorry, excuse me.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you very much.
Professor, can I ask one question, please?
Yeah, please.
Thank you, Professor, for your spectacular presentation. We enjoyed a lot. So we have informed some of the important issues, mainly relating to shadow economy. But I just want to know about this. So we have used some, okay, it is underground economy we are talking about. But is there any other underground maybe variables or issues we can take even in the further study, or because underground issue may be motivated or influenced by the underground thing. In that case, shadow economy response to the other underground things or variables that can even have the significant influence to impede or motivate or stimulate the underground or shadow economy. So is there any suggestions or any variables, anything you can suggest? Thank you very much.
Well, since MIC, this multiple indicator, multiple cause, the data is stuck till 2018. There is no latest data. So that's why what alternative research can be done with alternative indicators, like, as I said, there are some other direct or indicator measures for measuring shadow economy. If you can take a look for official GDP size, and if you find that the demand for cash or the ratio of money supply, so M, which consists high powered money, M1 and M2, then GDP divided by all this money, you will get the velocity. And velocity times high powered money, if it is not equal to GDP, then this discrepancy can be regarded as size of shadow economy.
Dr. Sohag, are you there?
Sorry, yes. Is it okay? Did you get my point?
Yes, Professor, I got it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I wanted to ask one more question. There was a very interesting graph that you presented that when you put shadow economy against in a scatter plot against the financial development, we saw that after, let's say, 90%, basically financial development tends to contribute to shadow economy. Do you think that it would be more interesting if you, let's say, used threshold estimation method and then found out that the exact threshold where actually financial development could boost shadow economy or could lead to shadow economy?
Definitely, yeah, I totally agree. Someone also can continue this study with threshold regression to identify what is the threshold point of financial development, turning point. Yeah, but maybe it could be good for country-specific analysis rather than other country. With, maybe USA can be one of the case.
Yeah, I actually lived in and studied in China regarding the level of shadow economy. But you're right that China has basically become cashless society for a while now. It's been a cashless society, but they do have P2P transactions a lot. They do a lot of P2P transactions, and they also have different apps, such as WeChat and Alipay for money transfers. And I think I'm also a little bit surprised that the shadow economy for China is in the lowest in the world. But again, as you have said, maybe because of the technology that they have, they can actually see where the money is flowing to, and they can actually track transactions better. In contrast to societies where they actually use cash more.
Yeah, for example, person to person is there in transaction. It's not necessarily the part of the shadow economy. That can be a gift, that can be the family business and other things. But it is detectable. I think government has control over Alipay or WeChat. So if government really wants to investigate someone's transaction, they can do so. But if it is a business, I think business people may prefer with paying with cashless with some kind of a code.
So digitalization would definitely have an impact on reducing. Then if that's so, then digitalization would have a positive impact on reducing shadow economy, right?
Exactly. Yep. Exactly.
And as future research, maybe we can suggest to researchers that they add, let's say, the degree of digitalization in countries. Maybe that could also make a little difference.
Yeah, I think fintech and shadow economy can be one of the topics.
Yeah,
financial technology. I mean, the deployment of financial technology in one country versus non-deployment of financial technology. How it makes difference the size of shadow economy can be a good topic.
Yeah. All right. Are there any more questions? We're ready to take more questions if you have.
One last question.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
If it is, thank you, sir. So, what's your take on what's the impact of shadow economy on usually market crashes? Like, do you think it can be the cause for market crash in developed or in developing countries? Thank you, sir.
Its impact on market crash.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Like generally on stock prices, what can be its impact?
I think it's a very empirical question. Until I do an empirical research, it's difficult to say. But yeah, we know that in stock market there are many speculation. There are many invisible hand can manipulate the price. So if there is someone wealthy and investing in financial markets, and if he has a lot of money coming from illegal sources, then he can play a big role to crash the market in either way. Because since it is open market, like how much share you want to buy or sell. So this demand significantly can manipulate the price. So there is of course, a chance, a possibility to manipulate price in the stock market.
Okay, okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah, I'm not very much into it. Corporate
yes,
finance.
Sir. I know, but actually, we usually call them operators in our place. That there are few individuals. It's very known to the experts that they are manipulating the market, but no official data is available. So, would like to see if we can investigate.
Yeah,
Might be
this is
future
my
research
general perception in stock market. There is a considerable manipulations, speculation. Yeah.
Yes, you're right. Thank you very much, sir.
Dr. Sohag, we have one more question from the audience. Mr. Rustam Gulamov, he's the head of Green Project, Green Economy Project team. His question is, thank you for your interesting lecture. My question, during your lecture, you mentioned cryptocurrency as one of the key drivers of the shadow economy. President Trump is promising the US will be crypto capital of the planet. How do you think this might impact the global shadow economy? Do you foresee any regulatory challenges or unintended consequences that could arise from a more crypto-friendly US administration? Thank you in advance.
Well, I have two types of view regarding cryptocurrency. One is very much political view or philosophical view. Another one is very much pragmatic. So let me start with both. Well, as I said, since if Trump administration implement with blockchain technology based public accounting, probably it can detect many kind of a fraud or illicit financing since it will be blockchain technology. And if the ledgers become public, so they can see every single players having the transaction in the whole process. And since cryptocurrency is rising, thriving global market, so USA also, of course, will try to grab this market to be superpower. But blockchain technology, as I said, can be under threat with new kind of a very supercomputer. Quantum computing can somehow breach this kind of a blockchain technology. So that's a very much scientific question in computer science domain. I do not know much about it, but what I understand is that it has an enormous impact on income inequality or social aspects. From the historical point of view, we see that any monetary policy changes took place along with a big war. Like, for example, when England mysteriously became superpower, they formed Bank of England, and there was a gold currency. And during the time of war with Napoleon, when they had a lot of money, they did it with gold standard with a sterling pound. So that was a change during the war. In the First World War, then created a Second World War, there was a big shift for power from England to USA. We also saw the monetary change, Bretton Woods Agreement, and Bretton Woods Agreement, it gives enormous political power, dominance over the rest of the world, monetary dominance from Bretton Woods, and how USA deal with these things. And you know that gold standard, they could not maintain the integrity in even 20 years. Then it came to petrodollar concept. Now the money become more about fictitious something without any backup. When I was studying in monetary economics, we study the three attributes of money. One is the medium of transactions or exchange, then store value, then unit of measures. So what is the store value of money? Now, there is no store value of money. If you keep your money without any bank or anything, so due to the high inflation, the value of your asset going down and down. And whenever there is a manipulation in money, inflation, and some hands become richer and some are poorer. So that's why inequality is a real problem. Even one person can have a 1 trillion USD, which is bigger than many economy. Like Elon Musk possesses more resources probably than whole GDP of Uzbekistan. That's the reality. So how it happens? Because of, I believe in monetarism. So monetarism always has a big questions, social implications in terms of inclusivity, in terms of income inequality or assets inequality. And in the case of cryptocurrency, it will be even higher. Because, for example, you invest in a Bitcoin, and overnight, tomorrow, the money you gain 10,000 and 10,000 USD for no reason. You have absolutely no contribution in economy, in real economy. But your money increased. But I did not invest. So relatively, you become richer than me. So when two of you, me and you, going to market, you can buy all the products available in the market, and I can buy nothing because you can bid a higher price. So the resource will be skewedly distributed. So it has enormous implication. That's why the poor country will remain poor and rich country will be richer. And this is I think it's absolutely corruption. This is a higher level corruption, internationally corruption, government level.
Thank you very much for the response, Dr. Sohag. I think if there are any more questions, we'll take one more question. If not, then we could conclude our session today. Dr. Sohag, thank you very much for an interesting presentation. That was very a great learning experience for
There is a question.
Yes, please.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the respected Dr. Ikboljon for organizing this event. I had a very short brief of time to join because I was having a lecture, and just for the last 30 minutes I was available to listen the presentation and for the Q&A sessions. I just have a little bit, we can say, the more motions. It would be really nice if we could organize one more such kind of event for the regional integration for the case of developing countries. Because as we are Uzbekistan, those I don't know the participants are from which countries. For us, the role of integration is very, very important in the case of the developing countries. As you are mentioned right now, that how much integration plays a huge role as a tool for the countries to develop and integrate their relations with other countries. And personally, we do have a lot of researchers who is interested to do research, and I would like to also invite the huge number of audience to join to this lecture. Thank you so much.
That's good information.
Yeah, Dr. Zeba Kuldashevs, thank you very much. We intend to organize such seminars on research talk more often, probably twice a month. And Dr. Sohag was our first guest lecturer today, guest presenter. It was very impressive presentation. And yeah, you're right. I think such events will be very useful for upcoming researchers. And we look forward to having you on our online presentation series again with new research articles in the future. Dr. Sohag, thank you very much. And we have one more question from Frederick Mukilia. Please, you may ask your question.
Thank you, and thank you for the great presentation. My question is basically on the informal sector. Based on the finding, I realized that one of the key things we need to work on is the institutional strengthening and also financial strengthening. So there's a low adoption, especially in the developing countries, on this kind of adoption, which are normally introduced. So I just wanted to know, do you have a best advice you can give in terms of how the government they normally introduce these policies into the informal sector? and how is it easy to adopt the system so that we can be able to clear some of the shadow pricing?
Thank you. That's more about a policy implementation. Fine. I think in order to curb shadow economy or illicit financing, of course, local government or central government need to strengthen institutional quality, like the rule of law, then control of corruption, strengthen like anti-corruption commission that should not be influenced by the political party. They should be very independent. These are the institutional factors. And for qualitative issues regarding transactions, yes, of course, technology can be one of the solution, like China did because of the cashless, or some kind of a beautiful framework, whether the government can trace every single transaction in business, goods and services like this. And one more driving factor, like for developing country, if income tax or corporate tax is too much, then obviously all the economic agents, they try to avoid the tax in order to obtain the margin of profit. So at the same time, government need to think very carefully that what is the optimum tax that citizen or the business corporates can bear. So tax rate itself matters. Then bureaucracy quality, like how easy to initiate a business on other things can be done properly without any kind of a extra hassle. So in that case, the government can more modernize the whole public service delivery. It can be digital. All information can be available. And for the bottom level, like education, the citizen should be more responsible civic behavior by giving them good education. So I think government need a very collective approach for every single players in the economy. The government, institution, people, business, all should work together in a perfect harmony.
Thank you very much for that response. And I guess Frederick, did you get the response you wanted for your question?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Dr. Sohag, thank you very much for your participation and making this making this time for us to share your research findings. There's one more thing that the Graduate School of Business and Entrepreneurship is organizing an international conference on 15th of April 2025. Please clear your schedule, and we would love to have you here in person. We would love to see you in person here in Tashkent, Uzbekistan. So we look forward to having you in our conference. Thank you very much for making this time.
If you have any,
that we'll be very happy to have you here. If you have any suggestions or recommendations to future, to upcoming researchers, you feel free to share, please.
Yeah, maybe when you arrange this workshop, you can create a kind of a form to register, so at least you will understand that who are joining from where. For further communication to follow up.
All right, thank you very much. I will do so.
Yeah, that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time.
Bye. Have a good day.
Bye-bye. You have a good day. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.